What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Combat Corporation, your source of combat sports. I'm your host, Al the Postmaster Tomorrow, and today I have a gear review on the Bayoneta PULAT Horsehair training gloves. Alright folks, as always, I'm incredibly excited to bring you yet another gear review, and this one for me is long overdue. I got these gloves at the turn of the new year in early 2025, but at the time my knee was still in recovery. I was only a couple months post-op for my knee surgery, but I've since put so many rounds, hours, blood, sweat, and tears into these gloves. These are the Bayoneta PULAT HH training gloves, and if you're wondering what the PULAT HH stands for, Bayoneta is just very direct with the naming of their gloves, unlike some other brands that will call them, you know, say the Super Mega Death Model X Mark II 3.0, things like that. In this case, PULAT HH is literally just a composition of the padding inside of the glove here. So PULAT PU is polyurethane foam, LAT is latex foams, and then the HH is horsehair. And I think on their website, honestly, it just says PULAT Horsehair now, so it doesn't even say HH. But it's cool because you can get these in a couple different models. You can get them in just regular PULAT, so if you don't like a horsehair glove, you have that. They have just PU, they have latex, pure latex. They have a multi-layered, which I reviewed last year, which I accidentally called it the PUL HH, which Bayoneta has actually since corrected me. I don't know why. I think I just I bought the right thing but called it the wrong thing. So I've gone back and since edited that review. I put it in like the comments and across the video here or there, like, hey, I messed up the name. These are the multi-layered. And basically the only difference between those gloves and these gloves is that this has a flat wrist cuff, as you can see here, and this does not have an extra layer of EVA foam that goes over top everything. EVA foam just basically adds a little bit more of added protection and also shapes the glove a little bit easier. But besides that, you virtually have the same glove. There are some unique and minute differences, which I'll go over throughout the video. Maybe one day I'll do a glove versus glove video, but they're both very good gloves, Mexican quality, high quality gloves here. And then again, talking about the differences, the multi-layer, if you prefer like the ridged, like the three edges for the wrist cuff, the multi-layered have those, and they're a little bit shorter and wider. But again, I'll talk about some of the differences as we go on throughout the video. Bayoneta is a brand that I've only, again, reviewed once, and I was so happy when they reached out to me and asked if I would give their input on these gloves. I said absolutely, and they've been super patient with me. It's been well over 6.5, 7 months since I got these gloves, but you know me, I like time-testing gloves because for me, $400, which is basically what you're spending on these, you know, $400 to $430, right? That's a professional quality glove. I would only recommend gloves like these to professionals or people that have too much money and time on their hands, basically, because it's an investment into your hands. Very well made gloves, but are they for you? There are some really well professionally made gloves that I would not recommend to people. Yeah, at the same time, I might recommend them to some others. So that's why I try and break these in as a professional fighter would, which is why the review took so long, because I couldn't even train in these properly when I first got them. I really could only hit the bag very lightly. I couldn't even twist all the way. But since I've sparred, hit the bags, pads, and these, and I've really, not giving the review away, really solid pair of gloves. Cannot wait to review these. And Bayoneta, another big thing about them is over the last 3.5, 4 years, they've become a massive brand. Bayoneta came from the boxing collector, a guy named Edgar. His whole goal when he opened his brand was to basically show the world quality Mexican craftsmanship, which I thought was really cool because a lot of workshops down in Mexico really didn't have the money to like ship out to other places internationally, and that's what Edgar would do. So he would ship these from Mexico to across the entire world, which is amazing. So I got to experience some really cool Mexican brands that I knew about but could never really get my hands on, or you'd have to somehow direct, buy them, like the brand new Sporting that used to make Grant. I used to have to, no joke, like money wire to get those gloves, which was absolutely crazy. And that's actually how Grant got their start. Elvis Grant would go down to Mexico, buy a bunch of really nice quality gloves, and then bring them up to the United States and sell them before he made his own brand. And most of the time, before the last couple years, when Edgar came along, in my opinion, a lot of people, you would say a Mexican-made glove, first thing you would think about, probably this guy right here, Clato Reyes. And that's because they're massively produced compared to these. These are a boutique glove, meaning that you're not going to get them in large bulk. Edgar's since made Bayoneta his own brand, so they're very unique in and of themselves. But again, they're maybe, I would estimate or guesstimate, I guess I could say, that this model glove in 16 ounces that I have here in this colorway, probably there was only 15 to 20 of them made and sold. They do make this colorway often, which I'll talk about in a second when I go into my model. But that's the thing about boutique brands, is that they are a little bit more expensive, but most of the time they're very well made. They're meticulously close on detail. Everything that you need about the glove is solid. And on top of that, they just don't have the large enough quantity compared to everything else, because it's a small workshop that does it. It's not a big factory line. Like, it's not like going to Walmart and buying Everlast, and there are even some bigger name brands out there that produce gloves massively compared to this brand here. So understand, if you're looking into Bayoneta, they may not have the color you want, but don't worry, they do have custom stuffs and different option as well. But with that said, guys, let's go into the review itself and talk about the exact model that I have. As you can see here, I have the Bayoneta 16-ounce lace-ups. They do come in Velcros. And I got them in the cream and royal blue color, as you can see here. And I love that colorway. It looks classic, like an old school 1940s car. And I got them again in 16 ounces. And most of the gloves that you get from Bayoneta go from 12, 14, and 16 ounces. But again, they do have custom options with the PULAT HH. So you have a bunch of different colors that are available for a certain amount of time. I've seen different colors like red, I've seen like silver, I've seen white, red, and green, just like Mexican colors, things like that. They also have a really cool like collaboration art piece type thing, and it's basically they have some of my favorite anime characters like Ippo from Hajime no Ippo, same thing for like Vegeta and Goku from Dragon Ball. There's some Naruto and One Piece ones as well. Those cost obviously a lot more because it's like hand painted art that's like on the leather itself. But in this case, it's just a basic color that they have. So really cool. So I recommend you go on their website and see if there's a color that matches you. But again, they do have custom options and they'll make the glove to your specifications of your hand and everything. But again, this glove has worked fine. But once more, for your reference for the rest of the video, 16-ounce lace-up closure. You do have a Velcro closure option, and they go from 12, 14, 16 ounces. And on top of it, I got them in the cream and royal blue color. And going into the look itself, as you can see here, we have that awesome Bayoneta logo there. And it says Bayoneta, and I believe it says Hecho in Mexico, absolutely, with the little Mexican flag at the bottom. You have the gold borders with that nice print, and you have the Mexican eagle, because that, I believe, is their national animal. I could be wrong, but it's still a really cool look, the Mexican eagle there. On the back of the punch surface, you have that really nice old school cream, like tannish color, which looks like, again, a classic car for me. Reminds me of that game Mafia 2, like the first car that you get. It's like that Jefferson car or whatever. I'm probably going way off topic there, but that's what it reminds me of, that color. The thumb attachment is also that green color, a cream color rather. And on the thumb, just like a lot of classic Mexican brands, similar to Grant, we have a split color thumb, and that is a royal blue. And then you also have that cream color going down there. And you have that same split going to the palm of the glove a little bit. You have the thumb, inside of the thumb, which is that cream color. You can see the laces are more of a white, so it really sticks out on the glove well. And look how that reflects off the light. It is a really nice shiny coat of paint that's on top of the leather here, or the leather itself is that nice shiny coat, I should say. And as you can see, you got the stitching, which is white, going across at the top of the grip bar, and it's all that nice solid blue here, white laces, and you also have that cream colored piping going down here. We go to the back of the glove, and you can see we have the Bayoneta, and that reflects off the light a lot. I'm not great with lighting, guys, but I'm trying new things. But as you can see, it says Bayoneta, and I believe they actually market it as crystal, right? And that's cool. So it's like the crystallized finish. I usually just call it the plastic cover, but I like that they call it crystal, and that does reflect really well. Bring it in close, you can see it says Bayoneta and that really awesome logo. It says Hecho in Mexico there with the green, white, and red Mexican flag there. And then on the inside, the tag that proves that it is indeed 16 ounces for you guys. When I open up the glove a little bit, again, those laces, nice and white as far as the look goes. And you have a really pretty, like plum purple color that's on the inside, magenta perhaps. My wife thinks these are prettiest gloves on the planet because of that, and she wants all of her gloves to have that, but I told her I can't make that happen, unfortunately. But in this case, glove looks really, really sharp, really professional. So if you're looking for that really basic look, basic but sharp classic look, Bayoneta has tons of colors like that. But if you're looking for more like your neon greens and stuff like that, they do have gloves in that option. And of course they have your basic black, red, white, different gloves like that, all on their website. Going into the actual build of the glove, just like a lot of other Mexican made gloves, the leather that you find in Mexico for the outer shell is a lot more, you know, quote, rugged because of the climate that they grow up in. So you have a very thick and sturdy hide on the back of this glove here, and it is relatively soft when you put it together because of how thick that hide is. A really good quality hide, guys, and I don't know if you can really see, but when I squish this together, it almost looks like foam or a pillow. I used to think years ago with like, cause I like leather products in general like coats and stuff, that they would put foam in to like insulate it, but no, hide itself is so soft and thick that people would actually use it for blankets and like pillows and stuff way back in the day. And that's basically what you have here. The hide is so soft and it's so thick that it has that soft texture to it. So when you punch, it actually gives you that added recoil, and it does, believe it or not, add to the protection of the glove as well. And you have that leather that's going all the way throughout the glove. And this is a full grain cowhide leather, basically meaning that they take the hide off, and when they tan it, they don't remove any of the imperfections. It means the hide was that well made. Now, most of the time they use a type of chromium salt tanning when it comes to any type of boxing glove, and it doesn't smell like it was vegetable tanned. It would smell more like pine if that were a case, and that just is more of an Italian thing. But in this case, you can see that it's very shiny. That tells me that it was chromium done, which is every single brand on the planet does that for the most part anyway. But it feels really good. You have that leather all throughout the palm, and it's just a smooth leather as well. Everything about it is very smooth, thick, and soft. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the padding itself, the PULAT HH has a center, which is horsehair, and you can even hear it crinkle a little bit. And that's the horsehair that's in like the center of the knuckles here. The rest of it is layered padding of polyurethane to keep your knuckle protected, and the latex to give you that nice pop and recoil that you get in most puncher's gloves from Mexico. Okay, most Mexican gloves are puncher's gloves, and just to refresh your memory, puncher's gloves is constantly punches and bunches, not just one big shot. Though there are some really thick latex gloves like Grant that some people really like because of that puncher's feel. They have so much padding that you're able to land those big shots and not really injure yourself. These are definitely a bit smaller as far as like the padding itself goes. They're not quite as thick, I should say, as a Grant, and they don't round off as much. It's a flat surface, so that gives you a really nice clean puncher surface, because when it's rounded, you really won't make contact with your target, whereas in this case, it's nice and flat, so when you do make contact, you're going to feel your knuckles kind of go through. But the polyurethane foam on the inside does protect your knuckles. The latex will mold to your knuckles a little bit, but you do get this effect, and watch when I crease this in, pops right out, right? Usually a high density foams, like an open cell foam, that's like softer, like almost memory foams, I guess is the way I could say it. I would do this and it would be like a slow recoil. In this case, I do this and it pops. It also bounces a little bit. You see how it bounces? That's the latex. Latex derives from rubber, so it's very bouncy, okay? So that's why people like that. That gives you that puncher's feel, and you also get somewhat of a replication that foam can do for horsehair. But in this case, we actually do have horsehair, so you can get that nice feel. That's a trend that a lot of brands are doing because a lot of people still fight in horsehair gloves, so you can kind of train in that with a 16-ounce training glove, still be safe for you and your sparring partners. But still, I do know several gyms that won't let you spar with anything that has horsehair in it. I think it's still great for bags and pads, obviously, to make sure that you're conditioning your hands to what horsehair will feel like, and you have the added protection of the foam on the inside. So it's a really nice blend, and they do it so well, and that padding goes all the way through to the back of the hand and the wrist as well, but I'll go into that in a second. When we go here, you can see the curvature of the thumb, classic Mexican thumb, which is a little bit fatter, but I will say that Bayoneta does curve a little bit further in, and it is slightly slimmer than some. Like New Sporting, which is a nice Mexican brand, has a really fat thumb. Reyes has a really fat, stubby thumb, and in this case, it curves a little bit more, so it kind of tucks behind the hand a bit more in a natural position, so you can open and close and separate as much as you can to make that nice natural fist and a nice natural hand progression right there. Whereas some thumbs, which are so fat, they actually stick past like that, so you will smash your thumb. In this case, keeps it in a really nice position, and I do notice that the thumb padding is actually a little bit stiffer, just so it adds a little bit extra protection, which I'm not going to argue about at all. Feels really nice. It's not too compact on the inside of the thumb either. You still have room to move, but it is a little bit more restricted because that thumb attachment is really tight to the glove itself. So it emphasizes putting you in a natural punch position, unlike some other Mexican gloves that do kind of have a really loose thumb, a bit fatter and wider, right? So I do actually like that it has a bit more of a curvature. What's nice though on the other side of the thumb is the thumb piping itself, as you can see here, is not so tight at all. So it has that room on the inside of your thumb here, so you don't feel like something's squeezing you so tight, and that's always really, really good. Now, when we go over to the palm of the glove, you can see here we have tons of padding all throughout the palm of the glove. Starting up with that grip bar. The grip bar is super soft compared to some other gloves. And what's interesting is actually thinking about this on the fly. It's softer on the outside, but a little bit firmer on the inside. And that's probably just because these are the areas that you're, punching with a little bit more. Maybe because you're squeezing more on the ends, I guess you could say, instead of just the middle, that these get a little softer. But it's I'd say a medium soft grip bar, and you have that double line stitching all the way throughout the palm to reinforce the stitching itself. And I don't have one fray stitch at all, which is awesome. And not only that, again, you have so much padding on the palm and the wrist itself. This is great for sparring, guys, for me, because you don't want to be so beat up going into your fight. So when you have this really nice high density foam padding here, this is like that memory foam stuff I was talking about, and it is thick. Like, I'd say it's a good inch thick padding, and it is really keeping you safe. It also helps counterbalance the weight of the glove, because that's the one thing. If this padding wasn't here, this glove would be super top heavy, whereas this glove is very balanced. As you can see right in the center, still a little bit more towards the top heavy end. I might not have balanced that right. Nope, still a little bit more towards the top heavy end. But that's natural for a Mexican puncher's glove. But still, without that, it'd be like, boom, it'd fall right over. Super nice padded, so it's good if someone's punching your arms. For me in MMA, if someone's kicking me, it takes some of the pressure off of that, and I like that a lot. When we go to the back, again, that padding stretches down to the back of the wrist cuff itself, giving you a nice added support for your wrist. And the nice part is too, is when you tighten these laces, it hugs around like this. See how I'm able to like kind of squeeze that in like that? It's hugging my wrist instead of popping out this way. It's hugging around the base of my wrist, which is awesome. So you have that entirety, one straight line cuff. The padding doesn't really separate so much, which is great. They have a separate stitch, obviously, so they can put the plastic on, but it seems like it's one solid piece of padding that goes all the way throughout the back. So I love that it's that nice mold. The eyelids are really easy to pull through, and the glove opens up nice and wide, and you have a really nice satin interior lining, which is actually very moisture wicking, which actually helps a lot for the inside of the glove, because if sweat starts to soak into that padding, even latex and horsehair can get damaged by too much sweat. But in this case, very moisture wicking, does not soak sweat at all, really, compared to some other linings out there. It's a very nice pure satin on the inside, or silk, a silky satin, I should say, on the inside. Feels very good on the back of the hand, and when I try it on, it fits, no pun intended, like a glove. It fits perfectly on my hand. I'm in a really nice natural fist. As you can see here, my wrist is completely aligned, my knuckles align here, so right where I need to hit, boom, right there, perfect. And then again, the eyelids are perfect, so all I gotta do is just pull down, pull it tight, pull down one more time because some of the laces are a little bit loose, boom, perfect, right? And that is on my arm perfectly. And what's nice is, as you can see this here, although it doesn't have the 3 ridge that you have with the multi-layer that I reviewed a year ago, you can still see that the lace will track right on the plastic. Now that's the best part, because guys, sometimes lace-up gloves don't have that high enough. So this is actually on my wrist bone. This is where my wrist is, right here, right where the wrist cuff starts. My wrist is here. Some gloves have a wrist that starts more right underneath the back of my hand, right? So I don't want that, because then I have to do what's called pinching, or some people call it other things, and you'd have to kind of come up high on the padding like that, and then you're ruining the base of the glove, and it's not fun. You got to tape it, and it's just a pain. This is right here, and it, boom, pinches tight just like that, and it feels really good on the back of my wrist. Really awesome wrist support. I'm able to open and close the glove very easily, but again, the thumb is pretty stuck tight, so if you don't like having too much mobility with your thumb, might not be the best glove for you, but it still has a really awesome fist position. It feels like my thumb is fixed at all times. I've never once smashed my thumb in this, and honestly, just to test this out, I want to I don't really feel that so much. Maybe a little bit in my nail, which is normal. But when you come here, again, that thumb padding, super, super thick compared to even the knuckle padding. It feels a little bit firmer on that side. Wrist support's awesome, really well balanced glove. The interior hand compartment, I would say, doesn't have the most room for my hands, so I do have rather large hands. Someone asked me to measure them. I think it was like when I did the little measure thing around, it was like, was it 10.5 or 11 inches or something like that? So if that gives you an idea how big my hands actually are, that's that in circumference. So I have wide hands. I don't have long fingers, but I have wide fingers and wide hands. I wear a size 14 ring to give you an idea. That helps too. So I don't wrap my hands up big with this, but a generic hand wrap without the big knuckle guards on it. The glove does a job itself to protect your knuckles, so I don't really think you need that. But overall, really nice, comfortable glove. I've really enjoyed these so far, but let's go ahead and go into the bag work and we'll come back with my final thoughts. So when it comes to these gloves, I love how perfectly balanced they are. They are just a touch more towards the top heavy side compared to some other gloves out there, but still really well balanced, and I love that they hug my arm perfectly. They fit over my hand like a perfect slot as well, and I'm able to really rip into the bag as hard as I want because of the knuckle padding that you have here. They have that classic Mexican style puncher's feel, so you get a really nice recoil, you get a really nice sink in feel, you can feel the horsehair with every punch, and as a professional MMA fighter myself, I really like that these have good clinch. I'm able to do boxing, kickboxing, MMA, or even wrestling in these gloves and really have an easy time with these. They're pretty flexible, and on top of it, you're really able to do everything you want in these gloves. And because they're so well balanced, not only are you able to wail into the bag as hard as you want, but you're able to let your hands go and don't have any type of dip. So far, love them. So when it comes to the look of these gloves, like I said, they have that classic car look with that cream color and the royal blue. I think it is a really nice color combination. I love how the plastic also reflects off the bottom. And I see why they call it the crystal design. You can see all the little nuances when it comes to the paint and the overall design, or the dye and the leather, I should say. And overall, the gloves look super sharp and give you that nice, awesome, classic, authentic Mexican feel. All right, folks, so my final verdict here for the Bayoneta PULAT HH training gloves is really awesome quality glove. And although I reviewed the multi-layered HH last year, I thought they would be more or less the same thing, but there are actually more minute differences to a glove like this than I thought there would be, and I'm going to point those out as we go. I want to start out with the things that I really like about the glove. For one, the knuckle padding in this glove is amazing. I was actually really surprised because usually when you have a horsehair or a Mexican style glove, you automatically assume, because guys really that use Mexican puncher's gloves don't often care about the protection as much as they do the puncher's feel, because their hands are naturally stronger. My hands are very strong. I've never really had hand injuries before, and heavyweights, usually you don't see that anyway. But in this case, the knuckle padding was absolutely awesome. And although I feel every punch, when I punch in, it bounces right back. It gives me that awesome feel. And even with a horsehair, I get that, if you know exactly what I'm talking about, that dull, like you just feel that impact when you hit the bag. That's exactly what I have when I punch with these, but at the same time, that latex foam bounces right back, giving me that nice training glove feel at the same time. Sparring in these, I've asked my sparring partners, and it's always fun for me to ask, like, hey, what's it feel like for me to punch you in the face? And they just tell me with these gloves, it was similar to some other softer gloves that I've used, and they didn't feel like it was any more punishing than some of the softer gloves that I've used compared to, say, using a glove like Reyes. Like, I have two teammates that have Reyes gloves, and I do not like getting hit by Reyes so much, right? But they said it was soft compared to a lot of other gloves that I've actually sparred with, which I thought was interesting. They told me that it felt more like some Thai gloves that were puffy and rounded that I used, which I thought was really interesting. So they are safe to spar in, but they still give you that feel, which proves, again, I like where the horsehair trend is going, because people are really nailing it down to where you have that feel. It's just supposed to replicate the feel. I can't emphasize that enough. Replicate the feel, but keep you and your sparring partners safe, which I think is great. So I have that awesome fit and feel with the knuckle padding. The wrist support's excellent, and that's the one thing I like about it, is that the laces track perfectly, and they're very lace and loop friendly as well, because it tracks right across here, and it keeps my wrist in a perfect alignment. I've never once had my wrist jar or anything like that. Even doing this with the laces, you can see I'm like putting pretty good pressure on this, and it's not bending the whole back end, right? It's keeping it pretty stabilized, right? And then of course, when you put the laces around it, right, if I tie that tight, you can see that it keeps it in a much more, putting the same amount of pressure on the back, a much more stabilized position, which is why people prefer laces compared to Velcro, because Velcro usually you get like, you know, and it just bends in half like that. But in this case, feels really good. And I also love that padding. If I do a lot of drilling, as far as like partner drills, and you know, say we're doing Dutch drills, which, you know, is like kickboxing stuff. So if I'm doing like, you know, one right kick, so I'm catching here with the one, and then I'm catching with the right kick here. And I've been kicked in the forearms before, and it does really take a lot of the heat off of it. I really prefer when gloves have that nice padding across the forearm, and it also hugs my arm a lot more. So it's a lot more comfortable. The interior lining, speaking of comfort, is super soft, very silky feel. And again, it doesn't soak moisture so much. I don't always train with hand wraps, so that puts my gloves at risk actually for kind of having more interior water damage. But in this case, these dry out so easily. They don't get frayed on the inside at all. And I've had them for well over 6.5, 7 months, and I've put multiple rounds in with these gloves. You know, I never can put a number on it because God knows I'm hitting the bag every day. I'm sparring, well, not sparring every day, but I'm drilling every single day. Many rounds, I'll word it that way. And they haven't changed on the inside at all. They haven't changed on the outside at all. Super durable. And on top of it, I've only used the leather cleaner on these once just to see how they would react, because I always, just like the products always recommend, I use leather honey, and it just says put a little bit on an area and make sure it doesn't have an adverse reaction. I have genuinely not done a spot clean with these gloves with any other product, and look how shiny and clean they look. So this is an absolutely amazingly durable glove, and I expect nothing less from quality workshop Mexican craftsmanship. And that's the plus side of the boutique brand and spending that $400 to $430. You see what I'm talking about now? But again, not in large quantity. But overall, really comfortable glove. It's a bit of a slimmer fit compared to the multi-layer that I had. The multi-layer I felt like was a touch shorter and a little bit wider in the hand compartment. Doesn't necessarily take things away from it. But if we go into some things that I would change, I guess it would be that if you like to wrap your hands up really, really big, for me, if you have large hands like I do, and there are people out there that have way bigger hands than I do, much longer fingers, like my friend and teammate Matt, who's 6'6", and has like daddy long leg fingers, but my hands are wider than him. No glove really fits him so comfortably, you know. But in this case, if you have really long fingers and you have even wider hands than I do, or fatter hands than I do, may not be the best glove, because it does have a bit more of a narrow and compact design, as you can see here, but it doesn't take away from the function of the glove. It still protects your knuckles well. And other than that, I mean, I guess the takeaway I could say of things I would improve, and it's not really things that I would improve, just if it probably wouldn't work for you, is that if you don't like horsehair in your glove, it's not going to be the same, right? It's not what you're going to want as just a pure foam glove. But again, I don't think that's anything I would change about it. I think the only thing I would change for me personally is I just wish the hand compartment was a touch wider. But has it changed my my opinion on the glove, and has it affected my training? Not at all. So that's just my personal preference. Similar to the multi-layered HH, I would say I'm actually right on board saying that this glove protects my hand just as well as the multi-layered HH. I think the multi-layered HH, being a little bit shorter and fatter, in my opinion, has a bit more of that top-heavy pressure, which I love top-heavy pressure gloves. This is more of that narrow, compact, you know, like balanced feel that I have. It's still a little bit towards the top heavy side, but you know what, again, most Mexican punchers gloves are. Maybe if you added just a touch more weight in the back, that's me nitpicking. Is there anything I'm going to take points away for? No, because it's still a great glove. So with that said, you're probably wondering, Al, what exactly would you rate these gloves? Well, you know, the Bayoneta multi-layered HH, I think I gave a 10 out of 10 for people that would really like a nice short compact, well, not so compact, it's more of a fat glove, I would say, that gives you that nice Mexican puncher's feel. In this case, if you want a taller and more compact, narrow, I'm trying to combine words here, folks, I'm making new things, all right? A more compact, narrow glove that's a little bit taller and like sits on your forearm a little bit more, I would rather go for this glove. So with that said, because it's virtually the same thing, only just a little bit taller, a little bit more compact, I'm going to give them, again, a nice 10 out of 10. And I'm giving them that S-tier rank, that excellent rank, because they are an excellent, excellent glove. These are really well made. I think they protect my knuckles and my wrist perfectly. The only thing obviously is the big drawback for some that's a casual consumer, $400 is a lot. But again, I put these in the professional level. I would recommend these to a pro that wants to try something different from like an Everlast MX or a Clutch Reyes glove, things along those lines. I would say really you should try out Bayoneta to train in, and that's why they're starting to gain so much of a reputation as far as a really great Mexican glove. If you've ever tried New Sporting, very similar to that, and I want to say that New Sporting might make these gloves, but there are minute differences from the New Sporting. Like I said, all New Sporting gloves I've tried, very fat thumbs, very fat glove, you know, in general, a little bit heavier, much more top heavy in my opinion. Still a great glove, but very similar to this. This is a bit more narrow, compact in build. But again, all the positives about it: incredibly durable, easy to clean. They're gonna last you a long time. They still protect your knuckles even though they have that horsehair feel. If you have brittle knuckles, honestly, I would say still things with like latex and horsehair, I would still look to a pure foam glove that emphasizes hand protection. And guess what? Bayoneta has those options, and you can always reach out to them and they'll point you in the right direction as well. So with that said, I've absolutely liked these gloves a lot. Love these gloves. They are very comfortable on my hand. They're very easy to clean, dry. They dry out quickly. They don't soak moisture up, and they smell good after a while. I've never really had to do much other than spray the inside once or twice, and they still smell like that awesome quality new shoe. It is absolutely amazing how good of quality these gloves are. Bayoneta has definitely become one of my favorite Mexican brands out there because they have hit the nail on the head for everything I've tried by them so far. So with that said, guys, I hope you really enjoyed the review. I'm so happy to be back in front of the camera. There's just been a ton of stuff over the summer and the last few months that have just taken me away from this. I'm so glad I was finally able to find the time to get in front of the camera and finally do reviews again. I love doing this stuff, and thanks for everyone for checking in on me. I'm fine health-wise. Everything is in the clear. Had a bit of a health scare couple weeks ago, but good thing is it was just a flash in the pan that probably came from a viral infection, and I'm all good. I had a follow-up appointment. They checked me off. Everything's all good there, which is awesome. So we're all good. I'm hoping to fight again in November, so please stay tuned for that. I'm just waiting for LFA, hopefully, to get back in touch with us. Not to spoil that, but I really would like to fight for LFA again, because the last fight was a fluke injury, and I want to prove that I belong. But again, thank you all so much for watching. Follow me on all my social media pages, and feel free to reach out and message me. Also, like, comment, subscribe, especially comment, guys, because I really want to get your feedback of what you want to see me review next. And when I say subscribe, hit that notification bell too, so that way when I do post, on the rare occasion unfortunately, you get to see it and share it with a friend if they're looking for some new gloves and gear and stuff. And always, again, comment if you need any guidance with anything. Message me if you need any guidance with any gear. I have enough to kind of know what I'm talking about at this point, I think so. But guys, thank you so much for watching this episode, and as always, I'll see you on the next show. Have a great day, everybody.